Thanks so much for finding us here at the Morning Glory Project. I'm your host, Betsy Graziani Fassbender, and my co-producer, Angela Washington, and I are ever so proud and honored to bring the stories of amazing people to you. These are survivors, thrivers, innovators, and trailblazers who tell us not just their stories, but how they got through whatever they got through to get to where they are. We hope you find them as inspiring as we do. Thanks so much for listening and for giving us the honor of your time. I'm very happy today to welcome Kathia to the Morning Glory Project. With over 6 million books sold and counting, Kathia's novels have been #1 bestsellers around the world. They've received starred reviews, have consistently earned editors' picks for best romance, and have been featured by the Oprah Magazine. Kathia has written over 40 books, again, and counting, some translated into several languages, all about hope and dreams and the bonds of friendships and family. In addition to writing, Kathia is an acclaimed artist, a kung fu master, and she wields both the paintbrush and the sword with great flair. Underlying this prolific writing world, though, her art and her unabashed sense of adventure, what may stand out most about Kathia is her unrelenting belief in love. When she found and married her own, quote, miracle man, one who could support her career and share in her adventures, she thought she'd had it all. Later, however, betrayal not only ended the marriage, but posed a threat to her career, and a costly one at that. Has her view of love changed? Is she still a romantic? And how did she get through all of this? Those are the questions we'll talk about. Kathia, I'm so happy to welcome you to the Morning Glory Project. Thank you for taking this time.
Oh, thank you for having me, Betsy. I'm so excited to be here.
And this is a first for the Morning Glory Project because I'm interviewing you as you sit in your studio in France.
Yes.
So that's exciting too. This is our first international interview, I think. So Kathia, you and I met about 18 years ago now.
Was it that long ago?
It was just before Project Daddy came out, your very first book. Uh-huh. And you were a member of the Sierra Writers Club in Nevada County, California. And I had just moved there and I joined. And you were an instant presence in that room of hope and encouragement. And I was yet unpublished, and you were about to publish your first book. And you were writing then under the pen name Kate Perry. And your first book, Project Daddy, and the second one, Project Date, were those first two books. Just delightful little nuggets of books that are sweet and touching and just really quick, little, easy, delightful books to read. And so I met you back then, and lots has changed for you now. I met you before your first book, and now you have 40, as you said, plus.
And counting.
And counting. So one of the things that always impresses me about you is how prolific you are, how determined you are. Tell me, where does that come from? How do you find that?
Where does it come from? I think it comes from deep in my soul. Whenever I've wanted to do something, I don't do anything that I'm not passionate about. Even when I had a normal 9 to 5, although it was more like 5 to 8 o'clock, 5 in the morning till 8 o'clock in the evening kind of job. I did it with all my passion. I loved doing everything that I've ever done. So writing is just another one of those things. I decided I was going to do it. And of course, when I decide to do something, I do it successfully because I see it. And so that's what I want.
So it sounds like it's a mix of desire and, well, you're using the word passion, but I'd also couple that with dedication. I have tried to make this appointment with you a few times, and it's often the answer is, I would love to, but I'm on a deadline right now, so I need to, can we wait? And that's been true of the entire time I've known you. You're always on a deadline, but the deadlines are self-imposed, no?
Yes, for the most part now. When I first started publishing, I was with a traditional publisher, a large traditional publisher. But after 5 books, I decided to take it on my own because technology was in such a place where you could start to publish yourself. And it was very lucrative and easy to get market share at that time, particularly.
And are you still doing it that way?
Yes.
So you're one of those people that I would love to sometime when you're back in the state and I can buy you a really lovely dinner. I will probe all that you know about self-publishing because it's something that lots of authors hesitate to do, I think, because it's like, oh, I got to take that all on and learn that. I don't want to do that. It sounds so icky and it's nuts and boltsy and all that. But you've had great success doing this. And not only great success because of publishing beautiful books, but also it's been a lucrative process for you too.
It was very lucrative. Yeah. It's a business. So there's the art aspect of it on one hand, but there's the business aspect of it on the other hand. And you have to be able to marry the two in order to do it well. But at the same time, I'm a firm believer that if you don't love doing something, you shouldn't force yourself to do it. So I'm very good at the technical and I'm very good at the art aspects of it. So from the beginning, I always did my covers. I always had a heavy hand. When I actually hired a designer, I would tell her what I was looking for exactly. I'd hire a photographer to take the pictures. And a lot of times he'd hand me his camera and say, take what you're seeing in your mind, and then I'll fix the lighting for you.
Wow.
So, I have that going for me, but there's a lot of things that I don't love to do on the business end that then you find someone else who loves to do it and is very good at it, and they can help you.
And you pay them to do that. And that's how business works, right? And listeners, if there's a little bit of a lag, we do have just a tiny bit of a lag between us. So if it sounds as though Kathia and I are interrupting one another, we're not doing that on purpose. That's just the technology. And also, I should also say that if you're hearing rain in the background, I'm not going to apologize for that because I'm in California and it is raining, which is a celebration. So if you hear a little bit of drizzle in the background, we're going to celebrate that too. So Kathia, here you were successful on your own, a single woman, building your artistic brand and building your business and doing really quite abundantly well at that. And you write a lot about romance, a lot about love, a lot about that. And along the way, you found a fellow, and I remember seeing on in our social media connections that you called him your magic man, that you'd found it. So tell me what that was like at the beginning and what your feeling was about this person and how that went.
Well, in the beginning, it was like I found someone like-minded. He was, to appearances, successful, confident, independent, everything that I was looking for.
And he had his own financial security.
He had his own financial security. He was well off in his own right, had his own businesses, etc. So it seemed very ideal. But after we got married, we were together for a short while before we got married. And then after we got married, I started to see it started to erode. The story started to decay a little bit. And it wasn't how I wanted it to be. In the end.
And that had not only the heartbreak aspects of any partnership or love relationship or marriage dissolving, but it had huge financial ramification as well. Can you talk about that a little bit? Because I think artists and authors out there need, and particularly women artists and authors out there, need to listen to this because you have a cautionary tale.
It wasn't just financial. It was, betrayal is bad enough on its own. Betrayal is something mean and designed to destroy. But this was a little like, this was even beyond that because he went after my creative works. He went after my books. So we were only married for 2.5 years, but during that 2.5 years, I was prolific. I was putting out a book about every 6 weeks or so. So plus the other, the audiobooks and the translations, etc. So there were about almost 40 versions of everything that I handled during those 2.5 years. And he went after them, and the judge, despite copyright, despite the fact that everyone agreed that I had created them, he had no hand in creating them. The judge gave 19 of those over to him completely, wholly for, to own.
So 19, not 19 books, but 19 products.
19
that could
products.
be audiobooks or
translations, and I think eight or nine actual books.
So despite the fact that he had his own wealth, he chose to sue you essentially for settlement for 19 and still owns them. He still owns those and benefits from those today.
I don't believe that he's done anything with them, but but yes, he owns them.
As an author now, I am not as prolific as you, and I write in a different genre.
Yes.
So it takes me longer, and I'm less disciplined than Kathia is by a lot. But I can't imagine the heartbreak, in addition to the heartbreak of the betrayal and the romance, to have one of your own creations, after working on it, taken from you. Just seems like, wowzer. You're using the word betrayal, but that sounds like an assault.
It's surprising how it's not just painful, it causes you to doubt, and it causes you to be very concerned about everything that you create. It's almost like PTSD, where, you start to create something and then you're freaked out, really, because is this safe? Like, will I get to keep this? Will someone take it away from me? It took a little while. It took me a long time, but my best friend would say, I have what she calls the 5-minute breakup, where I do my process. I do my, I write everything on huge pieces of paper. I process it. I decide I'm not going to do that again. I see the patterns that I don't want to repeat, and then I burn it.
You literally burn it.
Literally, I burn it. Mm-hmm.
Well, and that speaks to the fact that you're also a painter and a visual artist. Mm-hmm. And so, do you think there's something for you in the process of putting it into a visible form that makes it more manageable?
It helps me see the patterns. When I can see the patterns, I can break them and create new habits to put in their place, if that makes sense.
Okay, so I want to probe this just a little bit, because I'd love to understand it. When you say you put it on paper, you get a giant piece of paper, you put it up on the wall,
storyboard it.
You storyboard it. So are you writing words? Are you putting images? What are you doing?
Both, mostly words, but sometimes I do draw. I'll draw whatever comes to my mind, but I put words, if they're swear words, if I need to get them out in association, I put everything there so that I can move it out of really my heart and my mind. It's like wiping a chalkboard clean. You put it all out there and then you wipe it clean. For me, it's burning,
Well, what's interesting about that is you once showed me how you prepare a story, and you do a story when you're writing a book, not unlike that, right? You put it on cards, you storyboard it out and have your story, and then you exorcise that out of your system and into a book. So it sounds like a parallel or similar process of taking what's in your imagination, in your heart, whether it's a positive thing like a piece of art, a book, a painting, I imagine other things, or a heartbreak, a problem, a pattern, a challenge in your life.
It's no different. It's no different than writing. A lot of people, the stories that they write, they process what's going on in their life or what has gone on in their life in the past through their story. I do the same in my story. Right now, I'm writing my book that's coming out in March. I'm writing about a love guru who's lost her mojo. She evaded getting married, but she left him at the altar, and it's caused all kinds of problems in her career because, a love guru who suddenly decides not to get married, and she's older, and, how do people see that? So
that certainly tugs from pieces of your experience, if not your total experience, of course. Well, it's interesting. I am a believer, as anyone who listens to this podcast ever knows, I am a believer in the restorative power of storytelling, of the healing power of it, of the magic of it. There's something about telling stories through various forms, written, painted, danced, sung, that does help us not only to do what you're talking about, Kathia, taking it out of your heart and onto the whatever medium you're using, but also connecting to other people. So now I don't imagine that, everyone walks through your studio and sees your curse word filled mural.
Oh, I post some pictures.
Well, I'm going to have to snoop now. So there is a public connection to that. It sounds like a sort of a declaration, like hey, this is what I'm doing, and by golly, I'm done with it now. Torch. Right?
Yeah.
Do you make a party of it? Is there a ritual around your burning of this? Do you have a bonfire with friends and get drunk around a campfire or something?
It's funny that you say that because the first year I was gone, my divorce took 7 years. It just finished a couple of months ago. And I was only married for 2.5 years. So put that into perspective. But the first year after I left, when it was coming up on the anniversary of our wedding, I told my bestest friend, I said, I don't want this day to be associated with that. I want this day to be like a happy day, like a freedom day. And so what we did is we had a bonfire and we burned my wedding dress. And I have a really excellent picture of that.
Oh, you must send that to me.
I will definitely.
We'll definitely.
I will definitely.
Well, so you're talking about this process that you do. And then I want to go back to something you were saying before, that for what period of time did this particular betrayal and loss, and frankly the legal intrusion of it all, did it stop you for a while from writing? Did you sort of feel like I can't even?
Well, like I said, there was the fear of how much was he going to go after, and how much was he going to be allowed to go after, which inhibited me from being able to write, because you don't want to write something that you don't want to create something that someone's going to take away from you. It's like a horrible thought. So I stopped writing for a while, but then there was also I write about women becoming empowered in their lives, but there's a strong romantic element to everything that I write, because I believe that love is the most important thing in the world. Love is everything. Some people think it's power, but to me, without love, there's nothing. And so how do you write about that after you've had your heart broken and, all the plans that you have for everything just blows up. It's hard to write about believing that someone's going to fall in love and, live happily ever after.
Yeah. I was just going to say the happily ever after, must have taken a few bruises there.
I still believed in it deep down, but to write about it, I didn't have it. I didn't have it in me. I didn't write for, I think, about 4 years.
Which for somebody with your practice, your prolific production, you're kind of constantly thinking about it. I wonder what was the darkest experience of that? Was it hard for you to be away from your writing, or did you channel that into other things instead?
Painting. I started painting. Yeah. When I was little, I thought I wanted to be an artist when I grew up. But I set that aside when I was about 14. I got angry at my dad, and I basically cut my nose off to spite my face. Is that the saying?
Yeah, that's the expression.
And I stopped painting, and I started painting again, and it was the greatest gift. The last 7 years, there's been a lot of things, and there's been a lot of sadness and things that fell away, but there's been a lot of really great gifts, and painting is one of the biggest ones. I'm very grateful to the last 7 years, if just for that.
Well, I wonder, Kathia, I haven't read your most recent books yet. My TBR pile is tall. And so I'm wondering, if not only channeling the tragedy through your painting, through the process that you do of kind of posting and burning those things, I'm wondering if do you think that the end of your marriage and the heartbreak of that all, do you think that it's had a positive effect on your writing?
Yes, definitely.
How so?
I'm more, I believe more in myself. Before, I used to doubt my intuition. If I had listened to my intuition, wouldn't have gotten married. Quite frankly, there were red flags that I had rose-colored glasses on, because I'm a happy, positive person. And when I see someone, I see the best in them. But now I balance seeing the best in someone and believing in them with the reality of what their actions are and how they walk through the world. And I think it comes through in my writing. I had someone say recently that my characters were mature adults who were going towards a common goal, as opposed to, what romantic comedies are usually like, where there's all sorts of silliness and,
So they got
slapstick
deeper.
sort of thing. They got deeper.
Huh.
Yeah, more emotion. Still some of the zany, wacky parts, because,
Sure.
I'm a little wacky.
Because you're a little zany and you're a little wacky and you're delightful. So we wouldn't want that to go away. I do want to go back to the legal issue just in one other way. And that is because you have a cautionary tale for writers and creative. And can you say a little bit about, you said what the judge had done, but if you were going to enter a marriage now, knowing what you know, what would you do differently? In addition to choosing more thoughtfully and following your intuition and choosing a right person, all that. But even if you did all of that, just in terms of being a woman, what did you learn about copyright, about being a creative and how that works? And you were in California at that time. So tell me a little bit about what you learned and what you think writers, and particularly women writers, need to understand about this.
Well, I wouldn't rely on copyright to protect your works in general. In any kind of business setting, I would make sure that I had contracts in place that protected my intellectual property and works.
And those contracts would be with whom, since you self-publish?
If you're with publishers, because sometimes some publishers, especially for foreign rights, even though I'm published independently, I have some foreign rights that I've sold to people in other countries, to publishing companies in other countries. TV and movie deals, anything like that, you make sure you have a good lawyer and that you lock that down.
Okay.
Or a good agent. And
would you also choose to do a prenuptial arrangement with a future partner? Or does that just creep you out completely?
No, I think about prenups completely differently than I used to. Before, to me, prenups were a symbol of mistrust in your partner, per se. That's how I perceived it. My view on it is completely different, because we've done a lot of thinking about this, and a lot
yes, we have.
And to me, a prenup is an agreement between you and the person that you love, saying, I respect your work. I respect what you do. This is something that you've created. I respect that, and that's completely yours. And everything that you do there is yours. And, I would expect to do the same for him, with his creative works, with his businesses.
Leave it to you, Kathia, to turn a prenup into a romantic gesture. that tells me that.
But that's how it is.
Well, but that's how you see it. That's not how everyone would see it.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting to me what that says. I'm completely not making fun of you. I'm saying that your character, who you are, this believer in love, this passionate believer that love is the most perfect and beautiful thing, got scared for a while, got cautious for a while, but your ultimate character, your ultimate belief in what love is meant to be did not get annihilated, that you preserved that part of yourself. I think that that's why yours, to me, is a story of determination, Kathia, because I think that some people suffer a heartbreak or a betrayal and they become cynical and dark. As opposed to what you're doing, it seems like what you're doing in this case is exactly what you talked about at the beginning with your books, which is that you have the creative part and you've got the business. And it sounds like you've got the love part of romance, but you've got the practical business part of a partnership with somebody. And that those don't have to be opposites. They can be completely compatible.
Well, a marriage is a contract, and you have to write the contract the way that you want it to be. That's what it comes down to. Also, I'm not the sort of person that's going to let someone have power over me and to become bitter or to become someone that I'm not, or, to give up on love and say, I'm never going to get married ever again. I'm not going to allow someone to do that.
So you're claiming your power back in so many ways. So I want to end our time together by talking about, you've become a nomad. You've since you've done all this, I don't know if fleeing to living abroad was part of like washing that man right out of your hair kind of a process, or that's a very old commercial reference for those of you under 40. Sorry about that. I just aged myself. There used to be
I was about to sing it for you.
Okay, well then you know. So it was a song and a TV commercial as well. So tell me about where you live and how you live a bit. Not necessarily the geography, but why it is that you're traveling and living how you are now, and what's next for you.
Well, I was in New York. I moved to New York because my best friend, who's also an author, international best-selling author as well, was moving to New York to be with someone. And that didn't work out. COVID happened. At the end, COVID was very bad in New York. COVID was very bad everywhere, but in New York, it was particularly horrible. Yeah. And the first lockdown was ending. And one morning she said to me, what if we went to Ireland for a little while? It seemed like, her relationship had ended. I was starting fresh. It was like, let's go to Ireland. So we did a girls' trip, Thelma and Louise, but happy. To Ireland.
You didn't drive off the cliff. You just drove to Ireland.
No cliff. But we went to Ireland and it was fabulous. We lived in the middle of nowhere like Bronte sisters in this moldy cottage infested with spiders because who knew spiders like the damp? And it was wonderful. And then I've always wanted to live in France. I speak French. And so I was like, why don't we just do part 2 adventures like girls trip in France? So we've been living here for a little while and, we'll see how it goes.
And writing. Give me the names of a couple of your more recent titles so that folks can find them.
Well, I'm working on a series called Winners Inc. The first book came out this summer. It's called All In. And the second book came out a few weeks ago. It's called Want It. And I'm working on the third book now, which will be out in March.
And it'll be called?
It'll be Game On.
Kathia, you are a delight always. And I wish I could hop over to France and have a cup of really great coffee with you and paint in your beautiful studio. Kathia, I must say, is part of an inspiration for a little project that I've been on myself, which is that I've been picking up a paintbrush. Having never had any training before, I'm learning myself. So you inspire me in lots and lots of ways. To find Kathia, you can find her at her website, and her name is spelled Kathia. Her website is KathiaHerself.com. She now writes under the name only Kathia. She formerly wrote under Kate Perry, and that's all good. Mm-hmm. And you can find those books as well. But Kathia, I love Kathia Herself, which is both a website and a declaration, doggone it, it sounds like to me. So blessings to you, darling Kathia, and thank you so much for today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Betsy.
I've had many inspiring conversations with Kathia over the years of my acquaintance. I've known her for something like 17 years before her very first book came out, and golly, there are more than 40 now, which is amazing, and counting, as she reminds us. But my conversation with her today was a little different, and I came away with two big inspirations. One is for how she processes heartbreak or the need for change, in that she literally puts it up on a big piece of paper and posts it and looks at it. And really, my impression is that she takes off whatever rose-colored glasses she needs to take off to really look at something and analyze it and sort it, and then absorb what she's learning and burn it and move on. Now, not every problem can be burned away, but when it's about making a change in oneself, that seems such a valuable process that she's done. And I wonder if lots of us do that in different ways, but that she's inspired me to look at it, maybe adding a step to my own growth process. But the big inspiration that I really came away with after my conversation with Kathia was that she was a believer in love, a passion-driven, love-filled, starry-eyed, rose-colored, glass-wearing person who loved love. And she thought she'd found her magic man. And when that proved not to be true, when this person proved to be dangerous financially, emotionally, psychologically, she got knocked off her pins for quite a while. For Kathia not to write for 4 years, that's a big deal, because I know how much writing means to her. So the fact that she then chose to proceed going forward, chose not to give in to cynicism, that she would see that as giving further power to somebody else that she didn't want to sacrifice, that she still wanted to be who she was and look at the world how she chooses to look at it. More informed, rose-colored glasses off, but not cynical, that she was going to both listen to her intuition, honor it, and also welcome information. Watch somebody before she trusts her heart and her finances and all of those things to somebody else in the world. Remaining optimistic, remaining romantic, remaining a lover of love doesn't mean that you give up facts. And cynicism is not the answer. Rather, it's that romantic, passionate, beautiful self, but with wisdom. And that seems to be the Kathia that I spoke to today. I hope that wherever you are, that whatever heartbreaks or disappointments or struggles you may be going through, that you find a way to process those, and that by doing so, you also retain yourself, your good instincts, your love, and your wisdom. That's the best way to bloom.